Temple Grandin, everybody. She's live from Fort Collins, Colorado.
Hi, well, it's really great to be here, at least by phone tonight. And I want to talk about a few things about the iPad. I've been hearing very good feedback. And one of the reasons why the iPad works when non-verbal individuals type on it is because when you type on the virtual keyboard, the words appear right next to the keyboard. The people that have a lot of sensory problems, if they're using a laptop, you got to look back and forth between the screen and the keyboard, and they have a lot of problems doing that. Now, the thing you got to remember, especially in maybe 2 or 3 years, the iPad ones will probably have a price of free. People, we got a lot of low-income folks, and how can they get these things? Well, there's lots of computers that are laying around, and there's going to be more of them as these more and more of these tablets get on the market, and a lot of the apps are free. A lot of people don't realize that people on the spectrum have a lot of sensory problems. Like some people can't stand fluorescent lights, and their visual system has problems and images pixelate. There may be sound sensitivity. Their hearing may fade in and out. And they may have problems with hearing hard consonant sounds. Like when I was a little kid and the grown-ups got to talking really fast, I thought the grown-ups actually had a special language just for grown-ups because I was not able to hear the consonants. You got to slow down. One of the big problems is filtering out all of the background information. Now, maybe some people have some questions.
Temple, I think what we'll do first, if it's okay with you, is since we're just getting started here, we're going to take maybe one question from the audience, and then we'll take one question from these people are tweeting questions from all over the world right now. So we'll do.
Oh, okay, fine.
And so they can ask, they can pinpoint questions to whomever they like. But we have 5 people up here on the panel with me, and we'll just do it like that. Does that sound all right?
Okay.
All right. So we'll start with the audience. Who's going to ask the first question? Yes, Adrienne. Okay, that's a really good question. So Adrienne's asking about facilitated communication, and that's something that Kayla does here with Janna. And Temple, Kayla, maybe you want to answer that question? You can take your time. Actually, David, you're pretty good with this. You want to talk about that a little bit? I know you can do it. David Traver, everybody.
I'm sort of privileged to be here, and I think actually, without any deferment further, I'm going to give this to Gail Ewell, who actually has the best background to answer this question.
And I was going to defer to Dave the entire time. He beat me to it. Yes, I think there's many methods of use of technology in the film. And one of those is facilitated communication. And this film isn't meant to be an evidence-based film, so these are stories of hope and opportunities that anyone can try. And as you see in the film, many of the students are using touch technology on iPads, touch smarts, light writers, and some need assistance. They need proprioceptive input, which is just giving some resistance or giving some firm pressure. It allows them to communicate from their brain to their arm where the keys are, and then their goal is independence and independent typing.
Things I get very concerned about all the sensory problems. A lot of people don't understand the sensory problems. I've got this great big autism book that's as big as an old-fashioned unabridged dictionary, and the only article in there that talks about sensory problems is my article. A lot of people just don't seem to understand that a lot of people on the spectrum are kind of living in an alternate sensory universe where stimuli that don't bother most people are just flooding in and overpowering.
Okay, so we're going to take a question from, this is from Jordan, and Peter, we know Jordan is one of the stars of our film, and he says, thank you all for being here. My question is to the video production crew. That could be you, right? Sure. All right. He said, describe your experience in filming this production. How did it make you feel when you caught a glimpse of the people with special needs expressing their thoughts?
Well, that's a great question. Having not had any prior experience dealing with kids or anyone with autism, it was definitely a life-changing experience. I began to see things not only at the time when I was filming, but also in the periods in between, just in my everyday life, taking those experiences with me and imagining what it would be like to be in their shoes and want to express myself and want to be independent. And so I did. It definitely had a huge effect on me, and I carried it into into more than just the filming, into my life and how I would view a lot of things.
It's a two-part question, and the second question is a parent's, but it's from Jordan, so you might as well ask Mom, right? Here, I'm going to put you on the spot here. It says, what vision do you have for your child? Now?
That's my son tweeting from home.
Now that you, and it says, now that you know there is more to them, I'm going to change it. Now that you know there is more to him.
Well, we've always had great vision for our children.
This is Temple Grandin. Do you need me any more questions for me, or maybe I'll sign off?
We're all set. I guess we can clap for her.
All right, Temple, we appreciate everything that you do in the world and for people of special needs and your work with science, and you're one of the, as my son would say, you are the bee's knees. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, and it was really good to at least be here by the phone. Thank you all very, very much.
Kayla has an answer. Go ahead. Does she need the mic by?
The role of the touch helps me get organized, and then I can focus.
Yeah, Gail, go ahead.
Sure. Well, my vision for my children, is that what he's asking me?
Well, he wants to know if do you have, now that you know what you know,
Oh.
what's your expectations for the future, really, for him?
Well, I think that they have their own voice now, my children, and as they learn to type and to speak using different kinds of technology, and as they grow in their independence, I have a lot more vision for them. And just even today is a dream fulfilled, just seeing that they could have an impact on the world and touch lives of families that are in desperate need of hope. And I'm on different chats of autism and families, and there's just a lot of hopelessness. There's a lot of bad news. There's a lot of despair. And if you could just touch one life, if they can touch one life and give them hope for the future, that they have a future and that they have a soul and they have a role in this world, then that's my vision for them, that they would have that kind of impact.
And by the way, I forgot to do one fun thing. But in our world of hacking autism, instead of doing this, we do, yeah. Doesn't that feel good? Yeah, it feels so good to do that. Lincoln, do you have a question? I mean, Tyler. Why do I keep calling you Lincoln? I'm sorry. Lincoln, I know who Lincoln is. Sorry.
I love this movie. And Kayla, you are definitely our FC rock star. I don't need touch, but with some people and with other people, I need more support.
Another question from the audience. Yes.
To anyone, what impact do you hope this film will make on the world?
I think about those things a lot. And so for me, in many respects, this is the end of the journey, but it's very much the beginning. So obviously when you work as many hours or as many days or as many weeks as Peter and I did, and you do what we've done for a living for kind of a long time, you're just kind of patient, you know, like the kids need to be patient. So you kind of keep your expectations in check.
I think you should also mention that the film is one part of a much broader initiative that Goodby Silverstein has accomplished. and I'm probably not the best one to speak to that, but there's Hacking Autism website, and much, much more. So it's more far-reaching than just the film.
Okay, so we'll take a question. Kayla? Yeah, Kayla, go girl.
I hope silent people find their voices and people with autism take their place as equals in our society.
Okay, so there's a question here from the world that says, what are the best ways to build a network of support for your family? I think that's a Gail thing again. Yeah.
Network of support for your family. Well, I think getting involved in your local advocacy programs in your area for autism, Autism Speaks, and other local autism advocacy programs are very powerful. Also, you can start your own support groups. I think getting involved as much as you can online with chats, that's the way I learn a lot of things from other parents, are a great resource. I think, as much as you can, working with your school districts. I know one of the parents who was involved in the project had emailed me and said that there was a whole box of iPads in her office that weren't being used. And it was, she really wanted those to get out to the students that really needed those. And so I think as much as we can get connected with each other, getting involved in Hacking Autism and other projects, that will allow us to get the resources. As we get involved, we get more resources.
From the audience, somebody else? Yes, yeah, look. We were told that you were not allowed to ask questions. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead. I'm kidding.
I was just wondering how they chose the stars in the film, how they contacted their families.
You want?
Sure. That was a big process. I'm sorry? Sorry. The question is, how were the stars of the film chosen? And the short answer is that we initially started reaching out to over 20 families, and through the help of all the folks at Goodby, they were assigned. Everyone was assigned a family, and we would have bi-weekly meetings, and everyone would sort of report back, and we'd have maybe some video from flip cameras that we were also giving to the families and to the person who's assigned to that family. And we reviewed all of the notes and all of the feedback, and there was obviously tons of logistical considerations that we had to deal with as well. And we narrowed it down to who you saw in the film, and it would have been great to have gone out and filmed everybody, but obviously we didn't have the time or resources to do everybody. So we chose based on some of those logistical things, as well as who we thought was representative of certain aspects of kids on the spectrum.
Now you have to answer a question. Because it's addressed to Dr. Traver. That's you. It says, what can we regular folks do to help besides spreading awareness of the film and the website?
I think that's an excellent question, whoever asked that. I think it's my personal conviction that every single person has something to offer to these families. You don't have to be a doctor or a therapist or some sort of professional that deals with special needs families. If you're a carpenter, you can start learning how to build homes that accommodate the needs of these individuals. If you're a photographer, you can do the same thing with your profession. I find that it doesn't take intelligence, it takes heart. And I think that our society that's a very valuable commodity for our society, and I think it's something that I've seen basically as a doctor. There are basically two levels, in my opinion, of of passion. And one, the first level is professional. And I see that a lot in my colleagues, people who are very professionally motivated to help these children, and that's all good and all right. And then there's the second level, and it's called personal. And the personal level of passion has no ceiling. It's where you'll do anything that you have to do to help these individuals, not just children, but also adults. And I think that if we unlock ourselves to be able to think of what we can do to help these individuals, now 1 in 54 boys in America, I think that we'll be able to come up with some really creative ways to help these individuals. At the very bottom of the barrel, we can all be friends, and not onlookers, not spectators, not people who are afraid to put our children next to these individuals, people who can be advocates for full inclusion, if that's the best for the child. And I think that it's something that all of us, not on an educational level, but in a lifestyle arena, can support. And there are just limitless answers to that question.
We'd love to hear from Kayla, Janna.
Find positive like minds and be a leader. Just do IT. Love goes a long way.
Another question from the audience. The question is, why is the incidence of autism so much on the rise today? Dr. Dave.
Well, I was praying that no one would ask that question. That's a question that has many different answers and many more questions. In my office, I try my best to stay up to date or apprised of as many articles that pop out of the literature in our electronic era as possible. Everything that you can imagine, and I'm probably exaggerating here, but so many disparate and diverse factors have been now associated or been found to be risk factors, whether it's maternal age or men's sperm, or the length of time between the first and the second child, or exposures to chemicals or pesticides, and these are not just these are not just trite papers. These are papers from some of the leading academic institutions. And unfortunately, genetics, of course, plays, I'm sure, a huge role, as many people know. And the truth of the matter, from my understanding, is that there is no one answer. There will be no smoking gun, as I tell my families. There will be no one large gun we find in the corner of the room. And we say, there it is. There it is. Now we found it. Because with as many brilliant people as we have in the globe working on this, and who still have yet to find any real sizable answer to explain the majority of what we see, I'm constrained to say that it's a multiple number of factors. It is, many people in here are probably aware of the paper that came out last year, recently at least, talking about how I believe it came out of Stanford, how environment plays a much larger role than genetics was perceived to play. And that's something that has been on the table of suspicion for a long time. So we need a lot more research into that, and we need a lot more research into some of the prevention, the methods to prevent this. And now, if I can be so risque as to say this, I think that road signs are certainly pointing not only to postnatal factors, but certainly to prenatal. A lot of the immunology work points to that, and even now we are now looking at markers for preconception in women from without getting too fancy, from an immunological standpoint, and that has to be looked at with deep regard.
This is a fun question. If you were to sum up your experience shooting the film, what 3 words would you use? Anyway, my 3 words are I love Peter.
Empathy. Empathy. And Clint.
I guess we're going audience again. Maybe Susanna. You're getting all the tough questions today. Thank God you're here.
So the question, as Clint asked me to repeat, is there any credibility, or any credibility to the idea that vaccines are associated, or perhaps a strong word, cause autism in a number of patients? Because what has been observed is there seems to be this regression or this deterioration in these children in a period of time after they have these vaccinations. I think it is clear that vaccinations do not cause autism. Because if vaccinations caused autism and were the only cause, most of us would be autistic. It has become increasingly and disturbingly apparent that the word autism is an insufficient way of describing what we are now encountering in 1 in 54 boys in America, or 1 in 38 in Korea. We need to use the word autisms. There are absolutely subcategories or different types. We know that there's, at the largest sense, a regressive type, and there are certainly individuals who parents know from the very get-go things were not right. They seem to fall into a different kind of category, and those can be probably subdivided further. Research points to different groups who have immune abnormalities such that when they receive any sort of insult, of which vaccinations may be one, their response is not typical. Does that mean they caused autism? Probably an overstatement. But to say that there's absolutely no connection, that there's no correlation, and this is just complete nonsense, would probably be also an overstatement. And I think that the most important thing we probably can do, of course, is again look for prevention. Not that you are asking about this, but not to try to look with hindsight and figure out what caused my child's behavior. I am only interested in that from a clinician standpoint if I can do something about it. Because one of my deep beliefs and what I've seen in a number of my patients is that autism is not something that is fatalistic. These children can be treated, they can receive gains, and they can improve on any number of parameters, but it certainly is not a promise that every child is going to be, completely recovered.
Okay, maybe 2 more questions. In the very back there, yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
Kayla, you are amazing. How do you feel seeing yourself up on screen?
Wow, there's a good question. So the question was, how does it feel seeing yourself up on the big screen? And that is a big screen. Yeah, that's okay. I'll take another question. Yeah, right here.
Is there a big difficulty is there a big difference if you're trying to help out an adult who's autistic or a child who's autistic?
Dr. Dave. The question was about dealing with kids that are autistic versus parents that are autistic. And when Kayla's done, we'll let her talk.
I'm watching Kayla, so I can give her the opportunity to speak. But I will say, while she's typing, of course, when a human being is young or very, very young, early intervention is key. There is just no way to deny that when you can intervene at the earliest possible stage, that this is going to probably result in the best chance for successful remediation, recovery, or not just recovery, but prevention for neurological abnormality from what little we know and we observe. And a lot of this is based on observation. Because biochemical markers for these children are still wanting. But when you come to an adult, there are many different issues. They are looking for different needs to be met. They are looking for not only and rightfully so, relevance in this world, but also gainful employment. And so those are issues that have to be addressed in adults, whereas with obviously a child, it's going to be less important. I'm going to let Kayla speak right now.
I am extremely humbled by this experience, and I want to help others in any way I can.
I just wanted to say something too after that. I just wanted to say something about the adult question, because I think what's important about this film is that early intervention is really the key. When first getting a diagnosis is really essential, so I want to echo what he said. But as I think the key to this movie too is that that if your child passes a certain point where they're not speaking or they're not developing the way you'd hoped, and you've done all these therapies and you've tried all these interventions, that technology is another way that can open a door where maybe there was nothing before. As for my children, they had all the early intervention, all the therapies, all the speech, all the OT, all the PT, and it wasn't until some of the technologies were invented and designed and apps started coming out, becoming more popular, that opened them up. And they typed at age 10 and spoke at age 14. It was much later in their life. So I just want to say to those out there that if you have a child that's older and that you feel the system, quote unquote, has given up on them, that there's still hope for those children, for those students, for those adults. I think there's hope for them, and that technology is one way that could open a door for them that maybe otherwise they would have no life.
Okay, yeah, in the red.
Community is what I'm talking about. These guys get together as peers and hang out in other contexts, and especially as they get older, as I have a schizophrenic sister, do they get housed once you hit 21, do you stay home, or you get to go live in a group space, or how does that work? I'm just curious because I know it's so new and the population is such a large number.
This is just the question. So the question's about, along the lines of what we've been talking to about, it's just about participating in life and participating in life as an adult. So,
I think it's variable. Great question and needed, because like it or not, a lot of these children are going to grow up into being adults who are still challenged with some of these issues. It's a potpourri to respond to you accurately. Some of these individuals are still with their parents because that's what is most desired, and they can do it. And I think that obviously what we're looking for here is not a cookie cutter answer. We're looking for what works best as a win-win solution, rather than what is cheapest or what is easiest for the parents, or even not even what the person wants alone. I mean, everything has to be factored in. Some people do go to residential. Some people actually have homes themselves, and they are near the parents, and that's beautiful. But again, it's like education. We cannot fit these children into some sort of slot just because we believe in it. We have to really look at with heartfelt and candid objectivity. What will work best for them. So it really is a potpourri of answers.
Kayla has? Go ahead.
I want to make my own choices and become a contributor to others, not just a taker.
That some of these autistic kids belong to. Kayla belongs to a group called Loud Talking Fingers, and Tyler is a member of the group as well. And with the exception of, I think, Tyler, imagine a room filled with a dozen teenagers who are autistic, all communicating through technology. And it's amazing to hear and see the conversation, and we filmed it. It's not in the film, but that was quite an experience to see that.
Okay, we're going to take one final question. Yeah, why not? Why not? Stand up. You look so beautiful.
I go to the Hope School, and I have a question for the director and Kayla. I was wondering for Kayla, how did you feel when you finally, you got to finally speak to your mom for basically the first time? And for the directors, when you guys saw all the stories and the people and what they were doing, did you cry?
Let's give Kayla a moment to answer. Yes, it did make me cry. Yes. How could you not?
Well, you saw me cry.
It's the only way, right?
You saw me cry a lot up there. I cried a lot. So,
Loud talking fingers is the greatest place for us to support each other. I felt like a prisoner freed from hell to joy rising.
I think we're gonna finish the Q&A, and we're gonna let Marc Sirkin from Autism Speaks talk for a sec. So we'll slowly take our time getting off the stage. Marc will come up, and I'll hand him the microphone. He'll just keep going. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Clint. Wow, what an amazing evening. I'm absolutely humbled to be here. I want to first thank the Goodby Silverstein folks. The film is amazing. I also want to quickly thank Phil McKinney for sending an email to Autism Speaks pretty blindly about a year ago, which got kicked to me. Hey, you're a geek, yeah? You might be interested in this. This guy from HP wants to talk to you about something called hacking autism. And since then, it's been an interesting ride. And I just want to spend a couple minutes talking about, I think, what hopefully everybody's feeling tonight, because I know I'm feeling it. The idea of giving a voice to the voiceless is something very, very powerful. And every time I think about my role at Autism Speaks and what Autism Speaks is trying to do, I keep coming back to that phrase. I don't exactly know why. But watching the film, I think I got a sense of it tonight pretty clearly. Somebody asked a question on Twitter about what are we doing next with hacking autism and what's the role of technology in autism. And I think just watching Kayla and watching the film, and technology has the power to literally change the lives of a lot of people, but in particular tonight we see those with autism. And I think it's more than powerful. I mean, I think it's hard to actually explain. You see these stories, and I've had the good fortune of meeting people who I hope are watching live right now. People like Alex, who's a filmmaker. People like Skylar, who's a maker. People like Scotty, who's a writer. These are all people who are on the spectrum, and they're special people in their own right, and they're just people like us. And I think it was said in the film, and Dr. Traver said it. They're people just like us. And I think my experience at Autism Speaks, I've been with the organization for about 2.5 years, has been really, really powerful. So hacking autism is this crazy idea that I'm pretty sure Phil came up with. I don't really know who gets credit for it anymore, but I've kind of taken it and thought about it in a couple different ways. And what we're trying to do with hacking autism is bring together the community of people who can solve problems for people on the spectrum with them, with their help, with their involvement. And what we're trying to do is come up with hard problems that haven't been solved yet. Problems like how to put a piece of technology in someone's hand to help them express where they feel pain on their body, or how to calm themselves down with a piece of technology. I spent a day at the University of Michigan last Tuesday. This guy, David Chesney, he runs a senior software engineering class, and he challenged his students to come up with games for kids with autism using the Microsoft Kinect devices. There's actually a blog post today on Autism Speaks' website. It's unbelievable what's happening with technology and autism, and it's all around us. So what hacking autism really is an opportunity for all of us to participate in coming up with solutions to these really hard problems using technologies. So there's more information on the website, so I encourage you to take a look. There'll be some stuff coming up, and hopefully everybody will have had a good experience tonight and will want to get involved in different ways. And Autism Speaks is one of a number of ways, obviously, to get involved with solving these problems for these wonderful, wonderful people who are struggling with autism. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed the film. I know I did.